Welcome to the Midwest Education Technology Communities Podcast, otherwise known as METC. METC is a nonprofit organization based out of St. Louis, Missouri, with a mission to motivate, engage, transform, and connect all learners to advocacy, partnerships, and professional learning opportunities. METC is a premier affiliate of ISTE. To learn more about METC, follow us on social media at METC Ed Plus. You may also check out our website at metcedplus.org. METC is a program of Education Plus. To learn more about Education Plus, go to edplus.org. It is now time to begin our current episode. We thank you for listening and enjoy the learning. Thank you for tuning in to another CS Week special episode of the METC Podcast. This episode will highlight the responses I received from each of our guests this week on how they integrate coding into the curriculum in general. We do kind of talk about the different resources in which they are talking about within their episodes. So there are other ideas. If these aren't enough for you, you can go back and check out their individual episodes and get specific integrations with the tools they share. So like Patricia Brown shared about code.org, Matthew King shared about microbits, and Garrett Gross shared about Sphero. So those Sphero specific ideas are going to be embedded within his episode. These responses are directly to the question, how can you integrate coding within the curriculum, that kind of thing. So they were not resource specific, at least not supposed to be, but that's where these answers are coming from. So hopefully it gives you a nice, succinct list of ideas, a place to start, if you will. And if anything, definitely reach out and connect with these three educators. Ask them some specific questions on integrating these ideas into the curriculum. So be sure to do that. So let's go ahead and get right on into the responses of how they integrate coding into the curriculum. Enjoy. What are some ways that you are integrating coding and within STEM-related activities with your students?
Okay, well, a lot of different ways, but I wanted to share first, when we talk about code.org, they have a full curriculum from K to 12 that shows you how to do some great integration. The lessons are aligned to a lot of the standards, and so it's kind of like that open book guide for you to get you started. As far as what we do, and I do specifically with my students, it just kind of depends from grade to grade. But a lot of times we do code STEM related experiences is what I like to call them, instead of a lesson, where I may work with the teacher depending on what they are covering in their curriculum, and we find ways to incorporate that particular lesson with coding. One example would be our students in fourth grade were learning about area and perimeter. And so we were able to have the students code their own area and perimeter games as their product for what they were learning about that particular formula. We've done some projects where students were learning in science states of matter and being able to code the states of matter and show their learning in a very unique and creative way. When we talk about STEM experiences, they can range from very small, simple things. We do things like a thingamabob challenge, where it's just about critical thinking and problem solving and just thinking on your feet and being creative. And so they may have an object that I just give them, a random object that's in the classroom, and they have to come up with they have 30 seconds to come up with as many uses for this everyday item as they can. For instance, it might be a ball. And then they can say it's not just a ball, it could be, whatever they come up with. But so doing those up to more complex activities where we've done hexbug design challenges where they were learning about angles in math. And so they had to create a maze that has an obtuse and right angle in that maze. So they were able to show their learning. So it's a way to connect what they're doing in curriculum as well as providing that STEM experience. So it's about that exposure but not heavy saying this is a separate entity where we're just going to do a STEM lesson today. We want to make sure that we're having fun and we're being creative, but we're also hitting that content at the same time.
Well, the nice part is this is my 4th year participating in Hour of Code, and I think it's phenomenal. It's a great week. It helps build that excitement for students with coding. But in library, we're trying to add it even more. So like in 5th grade, we read aloud The Legend of Rock, Paper, Scissors by Drew Daywalt. Students then used a microbit to play the game against the computer. So they coded the microbit to randomly pick either rock, paper, or scissors, and they were able to play against the computer. We use it throughout the year by adding it when possible for other books as well. And the nice part about this is we also have a monthly STEAM challenge. Once a month in our STEAM challenge, we have some coding challenges that students are able to participate in.
Awesome. And when does that take place?
The monthly STEAM challenges students are able to come in. So the library is open throughout the school day. So from 8 a.m. until 3:30 when students leave, students are allowed to come into the library, whether that's during the before school, after school, or even during their recesses. So the nice part is the library is 100% available and students are able to come in when they want to and complete those STEAM challenges within the library during their recess time. And the funny part is we get about 100 students per day in the library.
No, I love the idea of just like learning through play. And but I have it very structured in the beginning that if it's too loosely structured and you kind of just like throw it at them and just see what they can do with it, being that it is such a new a new concept to them, and first impressions are everything with it, that you don't want to turn them off to it because of how their first experiences with using any sort of like if it's Java Java-based coding or if it's Blockly, and it's one of those things where you want to be able to have them play around with like if it's like the Blockly coding, like I mentioned, dragging and dropping different blocks, seeing what happens when they run the program, and then debugging it and teaching them how to debug a program, like look for the problem, stuff like that. That's one of my favorite things is getting them to problem solve by finding where something went wrong and like where it broke and like how to fix it, using those investigative skills. But getting them to, kind of just explore the different types of aspects of coding through play, like if it's with like using the robotics or if it's with like building apps, but giving them a clear like objective at the end. So like if we're doing coding with using the MIT App Inventor, where the students are building their own app. One of the things that I had them do for junior high was that for Black History Month, they made a app that would play. It had a speech that was one of two speeches that was played by Martin Luther King Jr. And then if they pushed another button on it, it would then play a speech by Malcolm X. And it was really cool how they were able to program in a responsive interactive button on an app that they could install on their Android phone or run via web app on their iPhone. And then it would actually call up an MP3 file. And there's a lot of pride there for them at the end of that they literally just made an app. And so that is a perfect, fusion of, exploring a social studies curriculum, objectives with then computer science. And they did so by building an app. And, an hour before, they had never done anything like that. So it's great to be able to, have them learn by playing, but at the same time, you're giving them objectives of what you want them, what you want like the end objective to be. Like what will they end up making? What's the product there?
That brings this episode to a close and also brings our week-long special for CS Week to a close as well. We have hit the final day of the week, Sunday, and we have been sharing resources to code within your classroom all week long. Also, some educator answers to why we should code, student responses to coding, and ways to integrate coding within the curriculum. And so this final one here, different ways to integrate coding into the curriculum, will wrap up this CS week. Hopefully, these past couple episodes will give you some ideas, some insights into ways to take STEM and coding beyond this hour of code or the CS week. And you'll think about different ways to integrate it into whether it is the PE classroom, whether it is reading class or science class or math class. You'll think of different ways to integrate coding activities into that lesson or unit plan. So thanks again to Patricia Brown, Matthew King, Garrett Gross for being our guests this week and sharing all of their awesome knowledge. We couldn't have done it without them. There's so many other resources that wish we could have highlighted on, but we chose this year, and who knows what we will have available next year. So check them out and connect with them. Be sure to do so. Share this with anybody who you think would benefit on learning how to integrate coding within the curriculum. And until our next regularly scheduled program, which will be next week, have a good one, everybody. Thank you for listening to the Midwest Education Technology Communities Podcast, otherwise known as METC. To learn more about METC, check out our website at metcedplus.org or follow us on social media at METC Ed Plus. To learn more about Education Plus, go to edplus.org.